All right, in this video, I am going to go through the process of getting the podcast and the website updated. I'm going to first start with editing the CrossWalk notes. Do that first for those who need that, and then we'll get into podcasts. So inside Dropbox, CrossWalk volunteer file sharing, programs, go to the week that we are doing. And inside here, we're going to have the growth group questions that Pastor Dan edits. I'm going to do those first, and then I'll also show the standard ones. So in here, we have this kind of backwards for the printing so that it prints properly. This may get changed, but so just a heads up on that. But what I do for this is we're going to copy out this page. Cut out, I should say, Command X or Control X. I'm going to move the background image over, back this up a little bit here, and then paste over to this side, move this guy down, get this back. Oop, that's got to be left like that. Just kind of look through real quick. And then if that's good, everything lines up, file, save as. I'm just going to go to the desktop. Could save it in the Dropbox if I wanted to, but we're going to switch it to PDF. You know what? Why don't we save it in the Dropbox? Maybe we should start doing that just so that it's available for everyone, depending on who's doing this. So we'll put it back in there as a PDF. Save. And then we're going to close this out and not save the changes so that the Word doc remains the same. All right. And I'm going to use the example here because we don't have one this week. I'm going to use this example for a standard CrossWalk notes without growth group notes. So the first thing I'm going to do on this file is I'm going to right click on this image here, and I'm going to format picture. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this in half, and I do that by cropping. And it's an 11-inch sheet of paper, so just half that. I just go 5.5, and you can see it crop automatically like that. So then all you do is you highlight these two sections, delete it out, and it should bump everything back to one page. And then the same process, file, save as. We'll keep it in there for now, change it to a PDF so everyone can view it, and save it. All right, so that's the CrossWalk notes that you will need to do to get it up or to get it formatted for the website. And later on, after I do the podcast, I will demonstrate how to upload that to the website. All right, so the podcast, we are going to use Audacity. So fire that program up. And you will have to find the location of the file wherever it's going to be saved. Currently, the file is in Dropbox in Jimmy Hollub's personal Dropbox. We might need to move that over to Worship. And it's called Weekly Podcast Assembly Project Meow. And that's Jimmy right there, meowing it. So I'm going to open that one up. So wherever it is, go to that file. All right, so you're going to have Jimmy's directions up here. And then you have 3 tracks. I believe it's from top to bottom, Pastor Dan, Pastor Jeff, and Phil Bischoff. I recorded the voiceovers for those, so those should be all set. So we are going to import the podcast. So I'm going to go to File, Import, Audio, and I'm going to go to the location where they are at, which they will be in my downloads folder. So I'm going to do, first of all, the 14th. I always pick the 9 a.m. service because the pastors are just much more natural delivering that message. So we're going to select that file and we're going to open it. Jimmy recommends making a copy. I have not had any issues with going directly. So I just go directly because it's faster. All right, you're going to have your 2 tracks that are recorded from the Behringer, music on the bottom and podcast on the top. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to click this little arrow right here to bring up some settings, and I'm going to split the stereo to mono. And then once it does that, it bumps it into 2 separate tracks. I'm just going to delete out the music track unless I want to listen to it for any reason, or cut out music or whatever. So here's the podcast track. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to click the track here, and it highlights the whole thing. I'm going to go to Effect, Normalize. And we want to remove the DC offset, make sure that's checked, and we want it to go to 0. And then don't worry about checking the last one. All right, there we go. Now, I am going to go through here first and find where Pastor Jeff starts his message. And that's music still.
An undying. If that is something
oh, it's Pastor Dan. Okay.
Is being part of that location, we are going to be one church.
Now I can see a couple breaks in the wavelengths here, so it's probably going to be here. So I'm going to go up and click the zoom tool, and I'm just going to zoom over that section. And then I just try to identify where the breaks are. Those are most likely where he might be beginning the message.
Second thing. So
that's not it. Let's try here.
All right, and now we will go into our message for today. And it is the one Jesus loved and loved into testifying.
So I usually do not include that portion. I usually go to right where he starts preaching. So it's probably going to be here.
Just out of curiosity with people here today, how many of you have ever used...
Okay, so there's the beginning of the message. I click there, I have my cursor there, which, by the way, this icon right here is the selection tool. You can see that will place your cursor. So once I have it there, you can with the finger appears, you can click and drag to select. What I do, it's just a little bit easier, is I go up to Edit, Clip Boundaries, and then Split, or Command I, probably Control I if you're on a PC. So that's going to split it out into 2 tracks, and then if you just double click in this one, it'll select that whole section, and then I'm just going to hit delete. So that will take that out and move everything back. So I'm going to then go up to the zoom the whole thing tool right here. It's going to zoom out all the way. And I'm going to just go over here with the zoom tool at the beginning. Pastor Dan is this one, so I'm going to unmute him. And if you can't remember, if you click this little thing and go to name, you'll see Pastor Dan in there if you can't remember which one he is. All right, so now I'm going to select the move tool. And I'm just going to click, and I'm just going to bring this back here so that it overlaps just slightly right when the music is fading out right here, that he'll begin. So once I move it, I can just click my selection tool and just kind of give it a listen.
Just out of curiosity.
And that's good enough. All right, so I got the front part done. Now I'm going to go to the end, and I'm going to kind of do the same thing and try and find where he's at.
Projects that we do. And maybe, Jason, I'll just start by asking you.
All right, so Jason spoke at the end of the message here, so it's probably going to be out here. You can see the music starting here. So I'm going to zoom in right through here somewhere, get a little closer look, see what we got.
Being part of the missions team, you can come and talk to me. I'll be standing by that hub after the service as well. Jason will be out there. That is great after the service. And again, thank you so much. Let's take time to pray as we go. Dear Lord, in this message today, we
Okay, so the prayer is starting here. It's going to end here. One note is if for some reason the whole message is not recorded successfully on the board, I've had to pull audio from YouTube, and we don't have the closing thought on the YouTube video. So I have used the prayer as the closing thought whenever we have audio that doesn't work. So you'll have to take that out. So, but we're going to go as normal here. I'm going to find the end of the prayer.
So that your name and the good news of Jesus Christ and forgiveness can be shared throughout the world. And it's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Okay, so the end of the message is right about there. All right, so we're going to separate that there as well, split that, Command I or clip boundary split. Here's music, and okay, so that's all the music right there. All right, so I'm going to go, this is probably Pastor Dan on the closing thought right here.
Don't take my word for it.
Okay, there's the beginning of it. I'm going to edit, clip boundaries, split. And then I'm going to select this, and it'll only select since my last clip right there. So I'm just going to delete that section out. I'm going to grab my move tool here, and I'm just going to separate these so I can see that a little better. Now I'm going to find the end of his closing thought, or the end of the benediction actually.
Wow. And now as you go with the Lord's blessing and give you his peace. Amen. Have a great day.
All right, so right there. And I'm just going to do the same thing. Clip boundaries, split, and delete out the rest. Okay. Now what we're going to do is I'm going to take Pastor Dan's outro talk here. I'm just going to drag this over to this neck of the woods. I am going to zoom in. So here I try to line up this part in a way that his amen starts right at the beginning of this part right here, where the little drum fill comes in.
And it's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Something like that. And then similarly on the end, just barely overlap the beginning of him talking with the music fading out.
Don't take my word for it.
Like that. So that's close enough for me. I have all of my stuff in position. Now what we have to do is apply the limiter to this. This is a little goofy because Jason Paltzer was talking, and he's much quieter here. Jimmy would probably go in here and do all specific editing and take a long, long time to do that. I'm not going to. So what I do is I just select this whole track like this. Then if I've already normalized it, which I did earlier, I'm going to go to Effect, and then I'm going to go to Limiter. So we are maxing out our limiter at 50 milliseconds. And, I'm sorry, I got to back up a step. Cancel out of that. We need to go to Analyze, Contrast, and we need to measure the foreground contrast. So this is going to measure on this. That's why I selected this track. So negative 23.9. So I need to bust open a calculator. 23.9, a negative, and then the magic thing that you have to do is add 18. Add 18. You got to remember that. And that's going to give you your answer. So the contrast, which is a negative number, plus 18 will give you this, negative 5.9. So remember that, negative 5.9. Now go to your limiter, under Effect, Limiter, and we're going to change limit to negative 5.9. So that number goes in there. And we're going to make this, all these are zeros, max that out at 50 and apply makeup gain yes. And then that's going to limit the whole track and raise everything up higher. So again, we're measuring the foreground contrast under Analyze, measuring contrast. We're taking the number that is a negative, we're adding 18 to it. Then we're going to Affect Limiter, and we're changing it that we're getting that number that we calculated, which was negative 5.9, and we're putting that in the limiter to limit it. So now you can see it's bumped way up here, and it should sound, it shouldn't clip.
To be the driving force behind our testimony
And I'm just going to go over here and check Jason's portion.
in other countries. Two of the mission partners that we have
So it is a little bit low.
just shared and prayed for.
So that might be something in considering at the mixer, seeing if that could get balanced out. Okay, so once that's all done, my file is done. I'm going to go to File, Export as MP3. Now it should pull up, oh okay, it pulls up the place where it's saved. So what I do to make it a little easier, I gotta change my naming structure here to name so it's in the correct order. All right, so we are working on this one. Which one are we working on? I gotta go back and look now that I'm curious which one I clicked. Oh, I'm doing the 15th. I did not do the 8th. Okay, so we're doing the 15th right now. All right. So I'm going to click this one. I'm kind of goofing this up a little bit. So we're going to change the information on the naming structure. So I'm working on the 15th. And I have one in between here. So this is the number of the podcast, how many we've done as of this year. So actually I need to do 15 yet. So this is going to be 16. Kind of did that out of order. Series title, The One Jesus Loved. Message name is Loved into Testifying. Pastor Dan, and you have to add .mp3 at the end. I don't know why it doesn't do that. All right, so then all the settings should be right. Constant, 80 kilobytes, joint stereo. It's going to warn you it's going to mono. That's what we want. Now it's going to bring up a dialog box for the metadata. So same thing, we got to change this to 15th, Loved into Testifying. Track number 16, Pastor Dan. Okay. And then that will begin the export out. And it will export it out as a single channel MP3. So I'll fast forward here and we will then show you how to upload it into the website. At the very end of everything, to close out the Audacity file, what we do is, what I do is just delete out the track for the message. I just move these guys back to where they were before, mute the track, shrink it up, and then I file save project. This will bring over the metadata and stuff, so that you should just have to edit it one step at a time from then on out, and then you're done. All right, now that that is done exporting, I go to back into Dropbox. I have it saving to Jimmy's Dropbox folder, final product. You can see it's here, it's syncing. So what I like to just do is just test it out, and as you can see I still have the one in between here to do, so that's a little abnormal. So I just click on this on the Mac. I just hit the space bar and it pulls it up.
Stars within Crunchy don't have anything.
Learn more about us at our website, Costa Maya Ministry.
Let's take time and find out.
So I just like to double check and make sure that is all sounding good. So then I go over to the website and I go to aws.amazon, and Rachel Meyer at crosswalkphoenix.com is the username where we have our storage. You'll have to have that information to upload the podcast. All right, so once we're in here, we're going to S3, which is the storage site in here. And then from here, Crosswalk Church, messages, and then search for it. If it's a new series, we create a folder. And just, I guess it does no spaces, no caps, no nothing. So this is called The One Jesus Loved. Here it is. And here are the messages. So I will upload, add the file. It is in Dropbox, Jimmy's folder, final product, right here. All right, and then so we're going to upload that. So this will put it in the Amazon cloud service, and then once it is done, the one step you can't forget is it needs to be made public. So if you forget that step, you can still add it to the website, but no one will be able to listen to it because it's not public. So after it uploads, you'll need to just change that one setting. That will be the one extra step you need to do. All right, there it is. It has appeared right here. So next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to check the file. I'm going to click on More. And then I'm going to scroll down at the very bottom. Hiding is Make Public. So that you'll need to click on that, make it public. Now after it's done that, I uncheck the box and then I check it again to bring up this nifty little side window. And then I copy the link address. So we're going to need that link address to link it to our website. All right, so now we're going to go to the Crosswalk website. crosswalkphoenix.com/user is the site to log into the back end. And then I go to the Listen tab. And here is April 15th. Paul Druitz already added the YouTube video. He knows how to do that. So I'm going to click Edit this content. This will actually go to the editing the content of all of them in the page. So I'm going to scroll down. It'll be at the bottom. Here it is. So this is the 15th, the one we're working on. And I'm going to paste into message URL, I'm going to paste that Amazon link. And then while I'm here from earlier, I did the Crosswalk notes. I'm going to go to those which are in the Dropbox folder, programs, and the weekend of. And I'm going to upload the growth group questions so that the growth group people have those things. And once you choose the file, you have to click upload. You don't have to do that for the podcast, but you do have to do that for the notes. And then once that's all there, you can click save. And it will be up on the website. And that's pretty much, and save, by the way, is down at the bottom. I'm not going to do it yet because I got to do the previous weekend first. So that's pretty much how it all goes. And you should be able to then do that. If you need to add a Sunday, if Paul has not done it yet, you click add another item. Another one of these boxes popped up. You just type the message, the date, and the speaker, and everything's exactly the same. And then at the bottom, be sure to click save at the bottom to finish it out. All right, that's the podcast. Hope this helps. Have a good one.